Good morning and welcome to 2014. I'm Paul Kennedy.
And I'm Beverly O'Connor. A very happy New Year to you all, and of course to you. Did you have a wonderful night?
Oh, it was fantastic, yes. Partied into the wee hours. No, I was in bed by 9 o'clock, so I didn't see anything on at midnight at the fireworks. Looking forward to seeing them all this morning.
Absolutely, because it is New Year's celebrations that we bring you today. Fireworks dazzle as millions around the country welcome in the new year.
The Prime Minister's New Year pledge to revive plans to recognise Indigenous Australians in the Constitution.
This would complete our Constitution rather than change it.
Michael Schumacher's condition improves after a second operation.
And Ashley Barty faces a race to be fit for the Australian Open.
Well, millions celebrated the New Year at fireworks displays right across the country. The biggest event was in Sydney, where around 2 million people gathered around the harbour.
For the first time in more than a decade, the Opera House played a major role in the fireworks spectacular. Fireworks also lit up the Harbour Bridge, where a blinking eye was this year's motif. Thousands also flocked to Melbourne's CBD to bring in the new year.
Where are you guys from?
Melbourne.
From Melbourne?
Yeah. London.
Yeah. First fireworks?
Yeah, 11 hours and they'll be going off in London, but yeah.
We should be better though.
Oh, London. They do about 20 minutes.
This one.
This is great.
I did think Melbourne.
Yes.
Melbourne.
You stay there. How were
Yeah, the best.
Is fireworks better than those in Italy?
Yeah, it's really better.
The best you've ever seen?
Yeah.
Melbourne's the best city in the world?
Absolutely spectacular. I had a great time.
Yeah. They were good?
Yeah, one of the best I've seen in Melbourne at the moment. Yeah, love it.
Saying what up to the whole world. Love you all. Hope you all succeed in this new chapter, new year.
Oh, it was excellent, yeah. It was great to see the fireworks here, there, over there.
Happy New Year!
A very excitable group in Melbourne celebrating the new year. The Prime Minister says he wants to revive plans to recognise Indigenous Australians in the Constitution. In his New Year's Day message, Tony Abbott says he wants to start a conversation on the issue. The former Labor government shelved plans for a referendum because it argued there wasn't enough community support. Confidential cabinet papers from the mid-80s have been released, shining a new light on the workings of the Hawke government. They detailed the government's response to a nose-diving dollar and Paul Keating's Banana Republic warning. They also show that improving ties with Indonesia was a high priority for their government. Doctors treating former motor racing champion Michael Schumacher say his condition has improved slightly. He had to undergo a second operation to relieve pressure on his brain. He does remain, though, in an induced coma. His doctors say he's not out of danger yet. Schumacher suffered a serious brain injury after a skiing accident in the French Alps. Peace talks are due to get underway later today to try to end the conflict in the South Sudan. The South Sudanese government and the rebels have agreed to take part in the talks to be held in neighbouring Ethiopia. Both sides are expected to reach an agreement on a ceasefire. More than 1,000 people have died since fighting began 2 weeks ago. An Australian journalist and 2 other reporters working for Al Jazeera in Egypt have been remanded in custody for 15 days. Peter Grester and his colleagues were arrested on Sunday. Prosecutors say they are suspected of joining the outlawed Muslim Brotherhood and supplying it with equipment. They're also accused of broadcasting material detrimental to Egypt's security and reputation. Al Jazeera says the allegations are totally false and unfounded. Let's see how the day in finance finished, the year in finance, in fact. The Dow is up 0.25%. So get more on those newly released cabinet documents. Confidential cabinet records from 1986 and 87 have just been released and reveal how Australia grappled with crisis at home and abroad.
Political reporter Andrew Green has been poring over the records.
From the bottom of the globe, America...
G'day. Dick Dundee from Australia. How are you?
And the world met a cheeky new Aussie in 1986.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Down under, the Hawke government was sharpening its knives too as it faced a ballooning balance of payments crisis.
Australia's current account deficit increased by 43% in a month.
The extent of that challenge detailed inside 10,000 cabinet papers from 1986 and 1987 released today by the National Archives.
I guess the story of 1986 and 87 is essentially that of a very competent government.
The economic task fell largely to a young and ambitious treasurer who warned Australia was in danger of becoming a banana republic.
Paul's dramatic statement helped to increase the understanding of that problem, I think.
But their relationship was frosty and remains so.
To sort of have to carry on and do some of this rewriting and exaggeration, it's sad. I don't know why he feels he has to do it.
Leadership tensions aside, Cabinet was busy rewriting too. New laws banning smoking on long-haul flights, despite discrimination warnings.
The no smoking sign will soon never go off.
And plans for another emerging and deadly health threat.
Over 50,000 men, women and children now carry the AIDS virus.
The 1986 Chernobyl nuclear disaster sparked health concerns too. Australia considered halting all food imports from affected Eastern European countries, eventually settling for random screening instead. Overseas, the Hawke government was managing relations with President Suharto's Indonesia, a resurgent Japan and an emerging China, while also imposing new sanctions on South Africa with a reminder that Australia's influence shouldn't be overstated.
We need to harness international support for what we're doing.
After Senate rejection of his Australia Card legislation, Bob Hawke called a double dissolution, with a pledge he'd later regret.
By 1990, no Australian child will be living in poverty.
The disruptive Joe for Canberra push helped him easily secure re-election against John Howard.
A moment of pride and of gratitude.
1987 was the last full year politicians would sit inside Australia's 57-year-old Provisional Parliament House. The Hawke government settled on a name for it, Old Parliament House. But the new one taking shape up the hill was a much bigger dilemma. Strikes and cost overruns forced Cabinet to take the total budget above $1 billion. Before moving house, the government grappled with the weighty issue of cutting subsidies to the parliamentary refreshment rooms, but was warned of a revolt from members and senators. Cabinet showed similar caution on the question of politician pay rises, deciding the time wasn't appropriate. A political dilemma that followed MPs into the new Parliament building. Andrew Green, ABC News, Canberra.
Well, let's get to the front pages of the major newspapers, all reflecting New Year's Day today. Feeling lucky, the Advertiser reports on a spike in gambling on South Australian lotteries.
The Age delves into those cabinet documents that we just spoke about from 1986 and 1987, which show how the Hawke government backed away from moves to scrap negative gearing.
The Guardian Australia says the Hawke government grappled with security and privacy issues similar to those raised by Edward Snowden today.
A quarter of a century later, Hawke and Keating are urging the new Abbott government to slash spending and return the budget to surplus as soon as possible. That story's in The Australian.
The Mercury reports on plans to send a helicopter to rescue passengers from a stranded Antarctic ship after attempts to reach it by sea failed.
The Northern Territory News reports on a train derailment in the Top End and a photograph there that Bev's partial to.
Yes, it talks about a psychic revealing the big news for Northern Territory in 2014. If you look very closely under her shroud, she's sporting a moustache.
OK, it's not Mitchell Johnson, is it?
I think you've just hit on it. It's Mitchell Johnson.
Yeah.
Here, they're going to win another test in Sydney. That's what it says. The Canberra Times says 2013 was Australia's hottest year on record.
It's a great photograph there.
Brilliant.
The Sydney Morning Herald says new climate modelling suggests temperatures will rise by 4 degrees by the end of the century, higher than previously forecast.
The West Australian reports on the arrest of a 19-year-old man over the murders of Maureen Horstman and her daughter Tamara.
The Courier Mail says 2014 is a time to shine, especially for swimming champion Kate Campbell, who is aiming to become the fastest female swimmer this year. Of course, the Commonwealth Games will be held in Glasgow later in the year.
The Daily Telegraph features in-depth coverage of Sydney's fireworks and how the city in the new year, and that, again, a magnificent picture.
And Victorian children share their vision for 2014. That one's in the Herald Sun.
Just a real reflection of our multicultural Australia and that new generation.
Happy New Year to you as well, Paul, and to everyone out there this morning. Well, this time yesterday it was a Category 3 cyclone. Today, Christine is a mere shadow of its former self, an ex-cyclone now, not far from Wiluna as it continues to track across Western Australia. This moisture trail here will bring some light rain today to southern South Australia, Victoria and Tasmania. At the same time, this outback heat that's been building this week over Queensland in particular will be pushed southwards today across southeastern Australia by north winds, and this trough over Queensland will trigger more thunderstorms. Those storms will fire up mostly over the interior, the northwest and Capricornia. Some possible early showers about the East Peninsula coast and the southeast, including Brisbane. Very hot over western New South Wales with high cloud increasing throughout. Some possible late showers just expected along the Victorian border and a late cool change in the south. A partly cloudy day coming up in Sydney and also in Canberra. Rain will develop over southwestern Victoria this morning and then spread from there across most of the state. Hot north winds ahead of a cool change from the west this afternoon. In Melbourne, patchy rain from late this morning. Rain will also spread from northwestern Tasmania today to be reached statewide by early afternoon. A late westerly cool change. Patchy rain for Hobart. Extremely hot over northern South Australia, 48 degrees at Coober Pedy, but milder in areas affected by rain, which should develop near the western and southern coasts during the day. A shower or two southwest of a line from Renmark to Coober Pedy. In Adelaide, showers late this morning, increasing to afternoon rain. Showers and storms over central and eastern WA, unsurprisingly, with squally winds and some heavy falls expected over the East Gascoyne, the Goldfields, Eucla, southern interior and the adjacent southwest land division. Some light coastal showers too. Morning drizzle, then a sunny afternoon coming up in Perth. The chance of thunderstorms for most of the Kimberley and Pilbara and over the territory this afternoon, apart from the eastern Alice Springs district, where it'll be sunny. An afternoon shower or storm on the way for Darwin. Tomorrow, it should be fine in Perth, Hobart and Brisbane. A little rain on the way for Adelaide. Early showers in Melbourne. Sydney and Canberra could have a shower or two.